Hey, I'm Dan Barker. I work at RSA Security, which is a Dell Technologies company. I'm the chief architect there, and we're going to talk a little bit about my opinions on monitoring. So first we'll cover the different pieces of monitoring, or observability as it's often called as a buzzword, and that's metrics aggregation, log aggregation, alerting and visualizations, and distributed tracing. And I put these in order of the way I would prioritize them, of getting them done and executing on them. Not necessarily that they all have to be done 100% in some sort of flow, but I find that there is more value at the top, and it's easier to get started with like metrics aggregation. A lot of times you can just install an agent and you can get all of your CPU and memory metrics. A lot of tools these days have metrics built into them. So you can get information from the application very quickly, like Ruby on Rails. Log aggregation has some built in into the system of like Linux operating systems, some built into dev frameworks, but usually it requires more dev work and there's security risks. Alerting and visualization requires more understanding of the system, so I usually delay this or do very simple visualizations and simple alerting. And alerting too often has negative impacts on the people's ability to respond to it. Distributed tracing is often not necessary in most systems, so it's probably something you should tackle last. It's generally not built in, although increasingly it is built in, and it's much less mature than the other forms of monitoring. For monitoring or metrics, who knows about the push versus pull debate? All right, a few of you, yes. So mostly, I don't think it matters. So push and pull are both good. They both have some trade-offs, but overall they equal out. OpenMetrix, who here has heard of OpenMetrix? It's a standard that is slowly being pushed out from the Prometheus exposition format. Prometheus, which was created in Germany, which is awesome. You should also use business metrics. No one cares if CPU is running high or memory is running out. They only care if a negative customer impact is experienced. So try to measure that. Log aggregation tools are for logs. Please don't put time series data in your log database. Time series databases have data structures and have enhancements that allow them to process time series data much more effectively. There's a session in an hour on that as well. There's some do's and don'ts of logging, so we'll cover the do's. You should actually have logs, and you should have them in JSON format so that your computer systems can process those and move them around these other systems. You should include a timestamp. That time should be in UTC. If it is not in UTC, that is technical debt, and you should start migrating that or figuring out how to. Every company I go to has this problem, and it is a challenge. Log all application errors. If you're handling an error in your application, you should probably tell someone that happened. And you should write these in human readable form. There's nothing worse than being an operator and getting a message that is cryptic when you're trying to fight an outage. Do not log info, data, and prod, so informational warnings, things like that, are not useful in prod and will overflow your system very quickly. Don't log PII. I see everybody do that for some reason. This is about visualizations. A joke that works is complete knowledge in a nanosecond from Steve Martin. And that's the way your visualization should work. Someone should be able to look at the dashboard and understand what's happening in the system very quickly. There are no informational alerts. If you are alerting someone about something that is not actually a problem, not impacting a customer, then that is probably negatively impacting their life, and you should stop. Those are called notifications. They don't need to be dealt with. Open tracing is another standard like OpenMetrix. It comes originally from the system in Zipkin, and you should look for tools that use this standard. Open Census, because it wasn't confusing enough. Open Census is something that integrates with kind of open tracing. So open tracing is more about the spec. Open Census includes libraries and things like that and some of the implementation details. And here's some additional resources you can check out. I wrote a little ebook for opensource.com, and the link is at the top. And then Practical Monitoring was written by a friend of mine, Mike Julian. It's a really, really good book. And then if anybody wants to write for opensource.com about open source things, contact me or someone on the website. Thank you.